Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers. This is your only friend, these YouTube streets, PorterRock77, back with another hot take. If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy the content that you're about to see and that you'll stick around and hit the subscribe button. Obviously, if you're returning to the channel, please hit the like button. It will help trend with the channel and support the channel and stuff like that, right? But anyway, straight to the topic, because I want to make this a hot take, and the advantage of a hot take is trying to get the information as quick as possible, but this might be a little longer, right? What you're about to see is a segment from a recent IGN podcast with a developer from Remedy, various questions about AAA game development and stuff with the PS5 and Xbox Series X. The reason why I am doing this hot take is because you have Xbox influencers and Xbox fanboys. They're misrepresenting the information of the video and they're spreading it out through all forms of social media, trying to make their point that they have been trying to argue since early last year with the power difference. And they're trying to use this video as an example and as proof that Xbox Series X tools are in its infancy, but it will eventually grow to the point where it will clearly surpass the capabilities of PS5. The reality is the developer never said that. In fact, there are statements that developers said that confirms things that I've been saying and many other people have been saying for a while now. Primarily, one, Xbox Series S is actually holding back gaming, and two, T-flop numbers doesn't matter, right? But those Xbox influencers and many Xbox fanboys or just people generally misleading the gaming community, they didn't mention that. So what we're going to do right now is I am going to present you that segment of the conversation. Now, I'm also going to link the IGN podcast, so you'll have the link so you can see the whole thing, because they do talk about PlayStation 5 game cards. They talk a little bit about the difficulty transitioning from current gen to next generation platforms and stuff like that. So it's a good overall video. It's only about 19 minutes, but we're going to focus on specifically, and the topic that IGN called it is so you'll see as I forward it, but it's specifically the differences between PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S. And we're going to watch the whole entirety of that segment. Many of the Xbox community is cutting, they're doing weird stuff about this, and they're completely misleading the information. So we're going to watch it, right? And I'm going to pause it so I can also give my take on it, right? So we're going to watch it together, and I'm going to give my take, and we're going to talk about truth, all right? No more none of the nonsense that you see. No more capping for these companies. Let's just talk some truth, all right? So let's do it, all right? We're going to get into it right now. Ready? Here we go.
And that it's crazy to me, and kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. The last question we have for you, I'm just kind of curious, in your experience, in Remedy's experience with Control, were there any kind of major differences between developing Control for PS5 versus developing it for Series X? And really kind of, I'd throw the Series S in there too, because that's, certainly a wild card in the sense that there isn't a comparable thing on the Sony side for that. So
this is where the segment begins, and it's called Major Differences Developing for PS5 and Series X and S, right? You see the developer smiling right there. He's the third one with the green shirt. AAA developer from Remedy, and now we're going to hear his opinions and stuff like that, right? And again, the whole point of this hot take is many in the community, for whatever reason, are misleading, because it's more important to cap for a product than just to be honest. It's just mind-blowing why people would deceive gamers. It's not like we ain't going to see the video eventually, but let's go.
I'd just be curious if you could quickly speak to the differences, if any, between the two platforms.
Oh, of course there's differences, and I talk a lot with the engineers and many team members about that. I mean, ultimately both machines are great, they're really well built, and like I said, it's early days, so they're still.
So I'll touch on that. I said many times, discussing, debating, that for whatever reason, all the AAA developers are saying both machines are built well. They're going to do fantastic things. But no, for some reason, the Xbox fanboys and all them, they want to push. No, PlayStation 5 is built terribly. It's a 1440p box. It's a PS4 Pro. They want to push. Those guys who don't make games want to make PlayStation 5 look bad. And yet constantly, the AAA developers who are making the games, they're giving praise to both and saying that both are great. So you listen to who you want to listen to.
A lot of just system level issues and bugs that impact performance or cause crashes and things like that. It's just that's all going to get better. Sony kind of stuck to what worked, and their sort of development software and tools were like pretty stable and good pretty early on.
So he mentions PS5. Their tools are better mature early on, and they're better. They're good. My question is, since when that was ever a bad thing? Isn't that what first-party developers, when they build accounts, supposed to do? Try to create tools, familiarity, so you can get the best performance and grow? I don't know, but it seems like Sony did a good job from the get-go with that.
And it's one of the things that people don't really see. Like all of these impact like the performance that the consumer gets. And Microsoft opted to change quite a lot of things, which on the long run are probably good. But of course, it's just a bigger hurdle.
So Microsoft changed a lot of things, right? Now notice he said it's probably good. It will probably end up good. This is where these Xbox influencers are lying. Because they're saying that the developer is saying that the tools are different, but in the long run, it will be better. You just heard him. He didn't say that in the long run, this decision Microsoft did is going to be better than the PlayStation. He never insinuated that. In fact, he's not even sure if it is a great decision. He just said it's going to be probably good. So he's looking at it from an optimistic viewpoint. But he himself did not confirm this is the better route. And he especially did not even say anything in comparison to the PS5. He just said that Microsoft opted to do things different and it will probably be good in the long run, right? But he didn't say it was going to be better in the long run, right? And he didn't confirm anything. He's just giving his opinion on what he sees right now. This is where, right from the start, these influencers and Xbox podcasters and YouTubers, whatever, and all these fanboys that cheer on this, they're misleading them. You heard from the horse's mouth. He didn't mention anything that this was something better, that what Microsoft did is better than what Sony did with their platform. Not even close. Complete lie.
For us devs early on to kind of like, we got to rewrite a bunch of different things to really take advantage of specific features. And, that's not that's not like a huge negative or anything. It's just what software development is like, but maybe that explains other things, like there's all this discussion like about teraflops, this and that. I'm just like, man, it's just numbers. Like ultimately, like the tools and everything just matters so much more. And how old.
You heard him. He mentioned there's all this talk about teraflops. So these developers are seeing the conversations fanboys are talking about, people are talking about on Twitter. They see it. He is outright, a AAA developer is telling you the numbers don't matter. What matters is the tool sets, the compilers. Shout out to Optimus Code, because he's been saying that all year long. And he even added other stuff, resources, time, the developer's skills. Obviously, this developer didn't mention those things, right? But Optimus went deeper and further. You need money. You need talent. What if the developer is garbage or rookies or amateurs compared to seasoned vets who have a lot more money? There's a lot of factors to this. Simply 12 versus 10 is the most asinine and the most rookiest level way of looking at it. You hear him right there. He's telling you the numbers don't matter. There is such much more important things that come to that.
All of that is brought together. Matters so much more than just purely the numbers.
Right.
And then Series S. Well, it's.
Now that I talk about the Series S and you see him, he's like, he's gathering up, he's trying to compose himself to talk about this product. So let's see.
It's no different from like the previous generations where like the system with the lowest specs does end up dictating a few of the things that you're going to do because you're going to have to run on that system, right?
Do I need to continue? Right there. All year long, and more than that, many of us have been telling you, right? The lowest spec system dictates what's going on. You do not build the game for the highest spec and then drop down. It doesn't work like that way. Some things in gaming is not settings. Some things you just can't simply set up and down or whatever. Okay? And then he's going to expand on that too. Okay? the lowest minimum spec will dictate the game forward. Sure, the higher end systems will run better versions of that game, but when you build the game from the ground up, you have to consider the minimum spec. When next generation truly starts, Microsoft first party games, the build design, when they start from scratch, Xbox Series S is the minimum standard. That hardware configuration will dictate how the game will go because it has to run on the Series S. For Sony and their PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 is the minimum spec. That is what they're going with for their first party games. Third party, they're going to do what they're going to do, but because the Series S and minimum specs PCs are part of the equation, they're all going to be about that, right? Now, Series S, right, might be the bare minimum, period, right? And then they're going to take an equivalent spec PC that's equivalent to the Series S, and then that's just from there, the game built from scratch is just going to go forward, right? But right there, he's telling you, just like any other generation, the minimum spec is what dictates game development. A AAA developer who may control is now telling you this. This is not Porter Rock 77 no longer saying this. No, here you go, a AAA developer. So if you're arguing from this point on, you're just a fool. You're not even worth talking to anymore. It's right here.
Yeah. And it's very easy to say that, well, you just like lower your resolution and texture quality and off you go. It's just nowhere near that simple. Like, it sounds good when you say it, and every engine is built in a...
Bo, he literally slapping you all because that's the examples that you guys gave when you tried to argue with me. You just lowered the settings, lowered the resolution, lowered this, and boom, you're good. And if it sounds like, if you're watching my video, right, and you were one of those dudes arguing with me, and it sounds like I'm talking to you, then yes, I am talking to you. Because I remember, that very thing he said is what you said. You. Yes, I'm talking to you. The one who argued with me, oh, you just lower settings like PC. You said that. And look at him. Not only are you wrong, but did you see how he sounds? He's like... He's trying to compose himself because he probably can't even believe that this was even a discussion. He probably can't even understand why was this ever a discussion, right? He's just, I could just imagine all these developers looking at Twitter, seeing people argue, whatever, and they're just sitting there like, they're just standing there like, oh my God, these guys are so dumb. Like they are. Notice, if you argue this point, the gaming industry is laughing at you and they're looking at you a fool. The best you can do is learn from this and just move on.
A different way. It's another thing when gamers might be, like these idiots, like this game engine like does all of these things. Well, it depends on, are you making like an engine that's much more about, GPU bound or CPU bound? Like which are you taxing a whole lot more? Well, we kind of tax kind of both because we have a lot of physics, but then we have a lot of the ray tracing effects. But then that makes a huge difference, especially on Series S. So it's a lot more difficult to engineer an old game to make sure it works on everything. But now that we're building the future games and hey, we know these are the system it has to run, we take that into account from day one, and we can ensure that all platforms have as good of an experience as possible.
So now he's a third-party developer, so he's gonna make games on they're gonna make games on PC, PlayStation 5. Moving forward, next generation. The platform's gonna be PC, PS5, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X. Right. So Series S, and minimum specs PC is gonna dictate the build forward. That's just how it is. Whether they have a PC of minimum spec that's weaker than the Series S, or if Series S is the bottom, the slime from the slug, like you're literally the start of it, we don't know, right? Series S could literally be the lowest spec machine for the next generation of platforms, or they might have a PC that might be a little bit lower spec than the Series S, right? We don't know, but the bottom line is those are the two platforms that's going to be pushing forward, just like he said, right? It's going to be a minimum specs PC as the lowest, whatever that spec is, or Series S might be the rock bottom, okay? But the fact is, it's Series S that's going to hold back gaming if we're going to talk about that. It ain't the PlayStation 5 with variable frame rate or, smart shift or any wick like that. Series S. Now, that's from the third party's perspective. From the first party and how they're going to manage their games, Microsoft has to deal with that. Because Microsoft, Xbox Studios, they're going to have to deal with the Series S. They put themselves, in that position where their games, when they build it from scratch, they have to consider the capabilities of the Series S. Sony went with one SKU, one design, one architecture, right? And that's just the PlayStation 5, right? Because the all digital, and the regular PS5, the only difference is just the disk drive. That's it. It is the same architecture. So that type of logic of trying to release two SKUs to make one an easier entry into console gaming, Sony didn't go that route. So they didn't put their developers in that position. So Sony first-party studios has an advantage. They're only developing from one platform, one specific architecture, day one. That's all they got to worry about. Xbox first-party developers, they got the Series S, they got the Series X, and they got the multiple architectures throughout PC, which is minimum specs PC, and then all the way up to the bells and whistles, right? If they were smart, they will probably leave Series S as the minimum spec, right? And not try to use a PC that's even lower spec than a Series S. Right? So that way at least it goes that route. But that's the hurdle they got to do. PlayStation first-party devs don't have to deal with that, right? Except for San Diego Studios, who's making MLB, who is not multi-platform studio because of the MLB deal.
That's what needs to happen. And, we appreciate that, there's a lower barrier of entry for a next-gen experience. But, the more hardware you have, that the more you kind of have to ultimately compromise a little bit when you are like a smaller studio like us, where we just can't spend so much time making sure that all these platforms are like super good. Of course we need to do that, but there's just a difference in doing that, because it takes a huge amount of resource, not just engineering but QA, the huge QA overhead to test so many different games. Like, I don't envy folks making Halo Infinite that has to ship on so many platforms. Like, they have the resources and money, but man, that stuff, like, it's super.
And y'all think I'm a fanboy that don't know what I'm talking about. PlayStation developers aren't put in the position that 343 is in. He's telling you right there, he does not envy what they have to do, right? There's no way you could always try to create new tool sets and whatever to make the multi-platform environment easier, but it will never be as easy as one platform, and that's all you got to worry about, right? And just like he said, the QA alone is insane, right? When you have to ship on multiple devices, multiple platforms. I mean, man, this is why I enjoy exclusives and stuff like that, and that's why I hold to Sony hope keeping with their exclusives, right? It's not about gatekeeping, because there's no such thing. That's a fake word. Gatekeeping is a fake word. Xbox influencers made up that word. Gatekeeping. It's a fake, in terms of gaming, whatever. Because no one's holding any gamer back from just simply going to a store, or just pick up your damn phone and go to Amazon and say, hey, I'm going to order this console so I can play these games. Buy the console you want, whatever. If you don't want to buy the console, then you really don't care about the games, then stop talking about it, right? Ain't no gatekeeping like that. Just get the console and play the games. Simple. Too expensive, price drops. I mean, at certain points, the consoles got down to like $200, and you got like a $50 gift card from like Target or Kohl's or Best Buy. It's cheap as hell. $200 console and a $50 gift card, and you still won't get it? Stop fanboying in hardware. Stop that nonsense, okay? The reason why I like exclusives has nothing to do with making sure other people don't get to play the game, because they could play the game just by getting the hardware. It's about this. It's development, and it's the type of quality the games comes out, right? You think Cyberpunk would have been the way it is if CD Projekt Red was only developing for one platform and that's it? Come on now.
To ensure everything works great. But like I said, when I talk to our engineers and designers, like, it's like the systems are solid, like, especially considering like how difficult last year was. And it's only going to get better. I mean, really, just you have some really nice looking Series X and PS5 games, but like, we're really scratching the surface, I have to say.
Sure.
Well, Thomas, your insight into game development is super fascinating. I could keep the conversation going for a lot longer, but unfortunately we're running out of time. But thank you so much for stopping by Next Gen Console Watch today.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. Thanks.
And viewers, if you haven't played Control, definitely check it out. It's a fantastic game, and play the next-gen version if possible. Before we go, we have the results from the poll from last episode. We asked, how do you feel about the PS5 and Series X's first 100 days on the market? And the winning answer was, how should I know? I still can't find one, with 30%. I know a lot of you are still struggling to find a new-gen console.
So we're going to quit it right there, right? So you've seen the full segment of that conversation. And if you're not a fanboy, or at least if you, at the very least, were able to surpass 5th grade education, you moved on to 6th grade education, you can clearly see that the FUD, the false narratives, the lies, why am I sugarcoating it? Straight up lies that some of these Xbox influencers and YouTubers are passing along, as you can see and witness, is clearly fake, right? But it is what it is, right? At the end of the day, these are consumer products, and each and every single one of us individually had to pay our own money to do it, right? At the end of the day, each of us paid our own money, and the question is, did you really, in reality, get what you paid for? Doesn't affect me, right? Most of these liars who bought the Xbox Series X and spreading lies about it does not impact me. I didn't spend money with a lie of, the best version of Multiplast and all these lies, and I don't have to keep on lying for that. You guys did that, and you did that to yourselves. I would think you guys will hold Microsoft accountable because you gave them your money and you clearly didn't get what you want. And right now, AAA developers are not co-signing the nonsense as these Xbox influencers. If I was you guys, I would directly ask these influencers, why are you lying and why did you mislead me with all this information when we got facts from AAA developers and we got facts from head-to-head comparisons, and they're nowhere near what you guys been saying. What is going on? What are you guys doing? But that would be me. I don't know about some of you, but most of you who've been rocking me for a long time, you guys are about the truth, the knowledge, the facts, and I hope that this hot take brought that to the table. Well, anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe, like, hit up the comment section. Let's continue the conversation. Tomorrow I might go live. I know I did a poll of what you guys do, and for the most part, people want both. They want the hot take and the live, so I'm gonna cater to that. So I start out with the hot take. Tomorrow I'll go live and we'll talk about this more, inclusive with the audience. Time to be determined. You'll just check me out on Twitter, PorterRock77_. You can find me there. But anyway, before you leave, please hit the like button, hook up the channel. If you're new to the channel and you like this video, stick around, hit subscribe. I have a podcast every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 60 frames, no lag podcast, and I think you'll enjoy it. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this hot topic. Are you guys tired of the lies? I know I am. But they're just going to keep on doing it until you guys hold them accountable. But anyway, this is your only friend in these YouTube streets, PorterRock77. Hope you enjoyed this hot take, and I'm out. Peace.